Patriots fans, welcome back to the PrimeTime Patriots Podcast. I'm your host, Jake Mott, going to be taking you solo through this season as our other co-host, Ryan Matson, is off to college, but we definitely don't want to miss the opportunity here to cover what should be a super interesting and fun-filled year for the New England Patriots. A lot of changes in terms of the coaching, in terms of the roster, and a big year for second-year quarterback Mac Jones out of Alabama. Had a great season last year. Got his way into the Pro Bowl for the AFC. So a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. We got some season predictions for you today. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. All right, so jumping right into things, I wanted to start with notable players that have gone away and have also joined the roster to kind of get an idea where we're sitting here with this 53-man roster. So first, notable players that have been released or have somehow left the Patriots. We got Dante Hightower, Kyle Van Noy, Chase Winovich, Jarrett Stidham, Shaq Mason, Dalton Keene and Devin Asiasi, N'Keal Harry, and James White. So kind of just to go over those a little more in depth, Dante Hightower and Kyle Van Noy, I'll lump these two together. This is huge. These are two veteran linebackers that have been so important to what this team and what this defense has been really for the past 10 years, honestly. They've been absolute core pieces to this linebacking core. And it's no surprise now that when we look at this core now, it's one of the weaker units on the Patriots team. And just a few short years ago, 2019, remember it was the year of the boogeyman. We had that nasty linebacking core running around causing havoc for the opposing quarterbacks. Doesn't look like it's going to be the case this year with those two guys both not on the roster, both not contributing. We're definitely young at that position, but we'll get more into that as we go. Chase Winovich, tough to see that one go. I'm a Michigan fan myself, so there's another Michigan man here when we get to the people who have been added, but we'll get to that in a second. Chase Winovich, as much as I love the player and the person, really wasn't a massive contributor here in the NFL and in New England. Was more of a third down specialist, really excelled at high effort plays, trying to get to the quarterback in pass situations, but wasn't super effective. I don't hate letting him go. It is what it is. He was due for a contract at some point here, so let somebody else pay him. It is what it is. Not a huge loss for the Patriots. Jarrett Stidham, backup quarterback. Personally, and I think there's probably some recency bias here with the last preseason game against the Raiders in which Stidham kind of lit it up against our defense, I think I would have hung on to Stidham. I really do. I think he was a good young backup. I don't think anybody in the league, especially here in New England, I don't think anybody views Jarrett Stidham as a potential starter or definitely not some sort of franchise quarterback to build around. So I get that, but I think he's been a backup his whole career. I think you could have paid him backup money, and I think he runs your system relatively well. So I personally would have just hung on to him instead of Brian Hoyer, because Brian Hoyer's going to do exactly what you expect. He's going to be a good mentor to Jones. I just really would have preferred Bailey Zappi, the quarterback we drafted, who I believe is maybe already gone, or he's a third string either way. I think Stidham would have been a much more valuable backup going forward for Mac Jones, so I would have hung on to him instead of somebody like Bailey Zappi or something like that. But makes sense. He might garner a little more money. He's off in Las Vegas now with Coach McDaniels, which we will get into soon. So he should flourish over there and do well in that backup role behind Derek Carr, but would have liked to keep him around here for some cheap money, but is what it is. Not a huge loss for the Patriots. Speaking of huge losses, we got Shaq Mason. Now this is huge. Shaq Mason, one of those people who's probably as important to this Patriots offensive line over the past 10 years as people like Van Noy or Hightower have been to the linebacking core. Shaq Mason has been a lockdown guard for us. He's won, I believe, multiple Pro Bowl nods. At least one. He's played really great for us, and he's helped solidify our line for quite a long time. He's now gone. I still think your line is in good shape. You brought in, obviously, Cole Strange. We're going to get to him in a second. He was your first overall draft pick to replace Shaq Mason. But it's hard, really, with that position in the NFL. It's so based around being a veteran and understanding all these little leverage games and things that go on at every level of football, but that just change so completely with the athletes and the real freaks of nature that you're dealing with in the NFL. I think you just need time and repetition, and we've seen Strange struggle a little bit already, as many early players do on that line in some of the preseason games, but I think he'll get there eventually. We'll jump into him a little bit more when we get to players we've added. But Shaq Mason, definitely a big loss here for the Patriots. I think they'll be able to overcome it, hopefully, but we'll see. Dalton Keene and Devin Asiasi, the two tight ends that were selected in the same draft together. Now, this was a big deal. This was right after the departure of Rob Gronkowski. Patriots scooped up these two players, Asiasi out of UCLA, and I can't remember exactly where Dalton Keene was from. But these guys were big play tight ends in college, and you were hoping to be able to use them in a similar fashion to, we always harken back to the days with Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, that 2 or 3 year span, where those guys really revolutionized how a lot of offenses looked at the NFL and how you can use two tight end sets. And both of these guys just totally did not pan out. If you need any sort of evidence to suggest how that move went for the Patriots, just look at the fact that they brought in two all-star level or potential Pro Bowl tight ends in Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith just 2 seasons ago. So this was definitely a failed experiment for the Patriots with Keene and Asiasi, so expected to see him go at some point. Not really surprised to see it now. N'Keal Harry, speaking of disappointments, never disliked the player or the person, or never disliked the person. That was N'Keal Harry. Always carried himself relatively well, was never somebody who was demanding the ball. You could see some sort of receivers coming out that were big names in college that really expect the offense to kind of work around them. You never really heard anything like that from N'Keal Harry, but this was just unfortunately a guy that never, ever produced anything close to what you were really expecting when you drafted him. You were in a position where you needed a solid X receiver. You needed a guy who could play a little bit in the slot, could play a little bit outside, had some size, had some ability to go up and get some 50-50 balls. It's actually Devontae Parker, which is exactly who you brought in. But yeah, N'Keal Harry was basically supposed to be that receiver for you, and over a multiple year span, he really didn't pan out. Probably the worst draft pick for Bill Belichick ever that I can think of off the top of my head. Definitely top 5. Not a great pick for the Patriots. He was on his way out at some point. They spent so much money on wide receiver in the past few years. You knew it was coming not too soon in the not so distant future. So not surprised to see that happen with N'Keal Harry. And finally, for players, notable players on the way out is James White, who retired, I believe, during the preseason this year. We weren't really sure the status of James White, where he would be. Obviously, James White missed all of last season with an injury that he suffered in the preseason. So we really never got to see him and Mac Jones operate together. Or no, it wasn't the preseason. I'm sorry, last year that he got hurt. It was, I believe, week 2, 1 or 2. But either way, we never got to see Mac Jones really flourish with, I think somebody like James White would have been his best weapon, seriously. If you think about how Mac Jones plays the game from the quarterback position and how often he uses safety valves and guys that just have an understanding of soft spots in the defense. Look how much he favored Kendrick Bourne once things got going last year. Kendrick Bourne, that kind of player. He finds the holes in the zones. He can beat a decent amount of man coverage. James White was that guy out of the backfield. If you ever lined him up with a linebacker or something like that, it was easy picking. So tough to see him go, but he didn't have too much left in the tank. Obviously, your shelf life as a running back in the NFL incredibly short, but incredibly grateful and happy for James White on what should be a celebrated point for him. Really a top mobile back in the history of the league at this point. I'm sure that will change considering how running backs are used in the league today. I'm sure you'll see higher volume guys in the not so distant future, but James White, really one of those bridge guys to really show you how effective a receiving back can be in the NFL. There was a big discussion going on with, would you take Kevin Falk or James White for their whole career? It's just, if that's a conversation being made in Patriot fan circles, then you've done something right. And James White definitely did more than enough right. Should have a Super Bowl MVP and doesn't. Just got a truck from Tom Brady instead, but guess that's all right. I'm sure he's fine with that. All right, so now let's take a look at some of the players that the Patriots have brought in to try to fill some of those holes that we just talked about with leaving players and holes that have been there for maybe a couple years in years prior. So first, let's just run through the list. We got Devontae Parker, Jabril Peppers, Ty Montgomery, Malcolm Butler, and Terrence Mitchell, who are both, kind of out of the picture now. We'll get to them in a sec. And then your draft picks. Your biggest picks were Cole Strange, Tyquan Thornton, the wide receiver out of Baylor, and Marcus and Jack Jones, a couple of defensive backs, a spot you definitely needed some help. So, to go into those a little deeper, Devontae Parker, this should be a huge pickup for you if he can stay healthy. That has obviously always been the asterisk for Devontae Parker. For his entire career, he's just not been able to consistently stay on the field for long, long periods of time. If you can get 14 or so games out of him in this 17-game slate and just try to keep him there at the end, if there is an end for the Patriots, I think he's going to be your most productive receiver. He's a huge receiver. He's 6'3", 230, 240, something like that. Big body, able to make big plays down the field, which is something the Patriots have really struggled with. He's basically everything that the Patriots wanted N'Keal Harry to be. He's a big body guy. He can play in the slot as well. Very effective. Yards after the catch. Crafty with the ball. Just watching highlights about 20 minutes ago. Just getting excited for tomorrow, for this upcoming season with Devontae Parker. He just tracks the ball so much better than any other person in the Patriots receiving corps. That's tight ends, receivers, anything. He really just has a unique ability to play the ball when it's up in the air, and he's as good as really anybody in terms of 50-50 balls in man coverage. He just has such a crafty way of playing that ball in the air and playing his defender and just putting himself in a great position to make that catch. So if he can stay healthy, I don't think it's too much of a leap. I think it's probably the favorite choice to say that he will be your leading receiver and he'll be your most effective weapon in the passing game. So if he can stay healthy, that should be huge for the Patriots. Jabril Peppers. Now, this one is the one I am beyond psyched about. So, as a Michigan fan, Jabril Peppers was the man 5 or 6 years ago in college football. Got himself all the way onto the Heisman board. Finished 3rd or 5th, something like that, right in the running for the Heisman, top 3 or top 5. And this is a guy that just really, back in the day especially, did everything for that Michigan team. He played defense, and that's where he really made his money. But he also was a return specialist, both kick and punt returns, super electrifying with the ball in his hands. And they used him a lot on offense at Michigan. They would put him in wildcat situations where he's basically playing quarterback. You understand wildcat. And, they just try to get him the ball in any creative way they could because of how much of an effective and intelligent athlete he is. He's really so good at his craft. It's kind of been injuries for him too. Injuries and size. Things change. He's an undersized person for his position. He played a lot of linebacker, mostly at Michigan, but was also a kind of hybrid deep defensive back and safety. He definitely had more of a focus on that linebacker role, though, in college. That's kind of flip-flopped in the NFL to where he's primarily, I think he's listed as a free safety, but he plays a lot in the box and he plays very physical. I think this is like the perfect sort of replacement for a guy like Patrick Chung. Thought it was going to be Kyle Duggar for a while, but Duggar's coverage skills are very, very suspect, and they get exposed quite often. Duggar's great in the run game, able to come up and provide that support. But besides that, really not too much from Kyle Duggar, at least yet. We need to see that next part of his game evolve. But Jabril Peppers should fill that gap. I think he's a big pickup for your defensive backfield, which is a pretty weak area on this team. So I think he's going to play a lot of minutes, and if he can stay healthy, I think it's going to be big. Ty Montgomery. Now, this is obviously the running back who I believe was just in Chicago, was with the Green Bay Packers for a while. He's going to be your James White. He's your closest thing to James White. He's going to be a receiving back. Obviously, he started his career in the NFL as a wide receiver. He's going to be that check down guy for Mac Jones. We got nervous at some point in this preseason. He had a foot injury. We weren't sure if it was an ankle break or sprain. But he seems to be good to go. He's already questionable for week 1, so he might not be ready to go at the start of the season. but will be here hopefully for a majority of the year after that once he does return. I think that's a big pickup. It's really important for your running back room. I think you have I think it's one of the strongest units on this Patriot team. Got Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, and I think Ty Montgomery adds that crucial third element of more of a pure receiving back. Harris, well, he is a little quicker and stuff than Ramondre Stevenson, just hasn't been really as effective in the past game. Ramondre, pretty even kiltered, surprisingly, with his frame and stuff, but he's pretty effective in the pass game, but still more of a downhill runner and between the tackles runner for sure. Ty Montgomery is that outside speed guy and the guy who's going to get a lot of receptions from the running back position, so I think he fills a perfect hole in that running back room, and I think he should be good for the Patriots here. So now looking at these 3 big draft picks, we got Cole Strange out of Chattanooga, which is a Division II school. A lot of heads turned, mine included, when the Patriots took this guy in the first round with their first pick. A lot of people thought they could have got him a little later. If he works out for you, I think it's a great pick. You just lost Shaq Mason. You got a young quarterback. It's never wrong to go after a solid offensive lineman. If you see other offensive linemen that maybe were drafted shortly after him from some bigger schools start to show off better in the NFL and have better careers, I think that's where things get a little odd for Cole Strange because of where he was selected. But if he can develop into a player who's going to give you 90%, ideally more than Shaq Mason, but at least 90% of Shaq Mason by the start of maybe next season, you need these guys to develop quick when you draft him that early. But if you can get him to that level, I think it's a good pick. I think it's one that's going to help your team moving forward, both running and passing. I think he's pretty well suited for the modern NFL. He's a smaller lineman who is a lot quicker. He's not undersized, I wouldn't say, but he definitely has more athleticism than the traditional big like a Trent Brown or a lineman like this. So he definitely is able to move around a little bit. So I think he should be a good mainstay on that Patriot offensive line for quite a while. They're obviously invested in him. So Tyquan Thornton, this one kind of sucks. You definitely needed as much help as you can get in the receiving room. It's been the ongoing conversation for 3 or 4 years here now in New England. And unfortunately, Tyquan Thornton has already broke his collarbone, which obviously that's not what you want to see before the guy gets on the field. And if you look at some pictures of him and you just look at his measurements, it makes sense. He's a tall, very lanky receiver. He's got insanely God-given speed. Insanely fast. Like 4.2 speed. Broke records at the combine. This guy can burn. He's an absolute athlete. But he doesn't have a lot of weight to him. He doesn't have a lot of ability. He doesn't have the ability to take really these bone-crushing hits. And from what I've seen, he's pretty good at avoiding them. But as we know with teams in the NFL and defensive backs and any player in the NFL, these guys are totally different machines than anything you'll come across in college. So that being said, Tyquan Thornton, we hope this doesn't become a recurring thing. Caught a touchdown pass in his first preseason game. Has showed flashes. We just hope he can stay healthy and contribute to this team like we know we need him to. So Tyquan Thornton. Marcus and Jack Jones, the last big additions here, both defensive backs. I don't have too much to say on them because I haven't seen too much of the tape, but I know this is a position that the Patriots absolutely need as much help as they can get because, as we were saying earlier, they brought in Butler and Terrence Mitchell, 2 other cornerbacks. Both of those guys are gone now. Malcolm Butler got injured. Was placed on the PUP list. He's unfortunately gone for the season, and Terrence Mitchell was cut at the end of the preseason. Terrence Mitchell being cut could be a good thing. That could suggest that these Jones, Jack, and Marcus Jones have stepped up and have made that decision clear that you can let somebody go like Terrence Mitchell. But these guys are guys who are going to have to play a lot. They're going to be thrown into the fire, so to speak, here early on in the season, going up against a lot of great talent, especially week 1 here with Miami. Going to have to worry about Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. So these guys, we're going to find out if they can play really quick, and it should be interesting. But yeah, that basically covers players in and out for the Patriots, so now we know where we're at. Now let's get into what has been one of the biggest discussed things of this offseason, and that is the coaching staff. So, Josh McDaniels, longtime offensive coordinator of the Patriots, aside from a 1-year stint as the head coach with the Denver Broncos, he is now gone once again to take the head coaching job in Las Vegas with the Las Vegas Raiders. And to replace him, I'm sure you're thinking, oh, maybe they got Bill O'Brien. Maybe they got Sean Payton, the retired Saints offensive coach. Nope. We brought back Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. Joe Judge, the head coach, former head coach of the Giants, our old special teams coach prior to that. And Matt Patricia, former head coach for the Detroit Lions, which did not go very well for Matt Patricia. He was back here in New England last year, actually, so after that failed stint, but now has been elevated to a higher position in this offense. The offense basically now in the hands of Judge and Patricia. It's not great. There's really no way to slice it. There's no... I'm not trying to allow any recency bias from the preseason because I know we haven't really discussed much of the preseason yet, but I don't know how you like this move. These are two guys that Patricia, very intelligent guy, smart. He's been on the defensive side of the ball his entire coaching career. So obviously raises eyebrows. Joe Judge, besides some slight workings with quarterbacks in his past, has never really focused on the offensive side of the football. Prior to last year, he did quite a bit of that as the head coach with the Giants. But unless anybody thinks the Giants' offensive playbook and play style is something you want to see over here, I don't think you'd exactly count that as successful. So a lot of question marks now, and you combine this with the fact that the Patriots are trying to run a whole new offense. Not whole new, obviously things come over, but especially in the run game, they're trying to go to a more zone running scheme, similar to what they do in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan, teams like that. And it's just been really, really ugly. We've had plays where ex-Patriot linemen have been able to pause the play at a certain point and point out how 5 out of 5 of the offensive linemen are all doing the wrong thing. And I don't know what you expect when you have coaches that have never coached offense really to a high level in the NFL, and now you're expecting them to not only do it in their first season, but implement an entire new offense with a quarterback who I think did pretty decent in that offense last year. He understood the terminology, he was comfortable running it, and now they're spinning and flipping the whole thing on its head. So I don't know how you could be a big fan of it. We're going to have to see how it goes, but I don't know how you could not say it's a negative for the Patriots. It's definitely going to be one of the most discussed things, if not the most discussed thing here, especially early on in the season. So keep an eye out for that. Who's going to be calling plays for the offense? A lot of people suspect probably just Bill Belichick behind the scenes. I'd be more happy with that than I would be with Matt Patricia or Joe Judge calling the plays. So really don't love the situation that they gave Mac Jones here with the coaching. Obviously, you don't have Dante Scarnecchia, your longtime offensive line coach, so he's not able to coach up these linemen. You got Matt Patricia, an old defensive coach, coaching the line, which I don't know why you wouldn't expect to see a lot of problems like we've seen in some of these preseason games. So you also lost Ivan Fears, who is your running back coach, which, again, just another component to the running game, which is something that the Patriots have leaned on so heavily since Tom Brady left in 2019. It's not going to be something they can stick with this year. I really don't think. Not something they can lean on. Definitely very nervous about this running game going into this Patriots season. I'm hoping Mac Jones can really elevate as a passer and get in tune with these guys, a lot of them with his second year, that being Bourne, Harry, Myers, players like that are back from last year. Hopefully get Jonnu Smith going a little bit. But, yeah, it's not looking good from the coaching standpoint, but season hasn't started. Nothing counts yet, so we'll see how it goes, but I think it's definitely going to be a hindrance, if I had to guess right now, with that coaching staff for the Patriots. All right, guys, so to wrap up the video today, I just want to quickly talk about the preseason for the Patriots very briefly and then go game by game, give you guys a bit of a season prediction here. We'll try to move pretty quick. So preseason for the Patriots is really not much good to take away, honestly. starting offense looked really bad. I talked about it a little bit with the coaches a few minutes ago, but things just didn't look in tune, especially in the running game. And they struggled a lot against inferior units, so against other teams' twos and threes. They were just not on the same page. There were a lot of drop balls. Mac Jones had, his worst interception that I've ever seen him throw in the NFL. Just threw it directly to a linebacker. So yeah, there's really not a bunch of good to take. The defense showed some flashes, but again, the defense tended to show those flashes against like the twos and threes of other teams or backup quarterbacks, things like that. Not an encouraging preseason. I don't think there's too much more to say than that. Preseason football is preseason football. You keep a lot of looks hidden. And these practices have become a much bigger deal on Wednesdays and the days before the preseason games. That's where a lot of these coaches and teams like to get their work in now. So the preseason games kind of suck. They've always sucked anyways. But definitely not a positive looking one for the Patriots. Never forget that the Detroit Lions, when they went 0-16, also were 4-0 in the preseason. So that shows you how much the preseason matters. Doesn't matter at all, but if you want to put any weight into it, not much good to take away. I think it was pretty crappy all around for the Patriots, except for some defensive flashes, like I said. So let's get right into it for the season predictions. And we are starting week 1. I'll go a little longer on this one just because this is the game we're worried about this week. But this is going to be in Miami against the Dolphins. I'm going to try to give you guys 3 reasons why I feel the team's going to win or lose any one of these given games. Dolphins week 1, I think they're losing. Unfortunately, I think they're going to start 0-1 in Miami. The Patriots already down in Miami have been there for like 5 days. A really big amount of headlines were made when they went down there super extra early to try to get used to that Miami weather. I don't think it's going to be enough. I think the biggest reasons, one is your corner depth and your overall defensive backfield depth against these receivers. Tua is not a great quarterback. I don't love Tua. I don't think anybody really loves Tua. But when you got the talent that he now has, you have a really great tight end as well in Mike Gesicki. You got Jalen Waddle and obviously Tyreek Hill you just brought in from Kansas City. I think these Patriot corners and safeties are going to have some serious trouble trying to lock those guys up. And I think Tua should have a pretty good day. So we'll see how it goes. But reason number 2, offenses look too inconsistent. We just talked about it in the preseason. I don't think these guys have the reps they need to really... I think it's going to be a close game regardless. I think it's only like a 2-point spread or something if you're a betting person. But I just don't think the Patriots are going to be able to execute. Say they have a drive at the end of the game to drive down and win it. I don't think they're in the position right now to get that done. And finally, it's in Miami. That's been a problem for the Patriots for a really long time. Patriots, I believe, 0-4 in the last 4 meetings with Miami and have lost some sort of crazy ratio in terms of games actually in Miami. So definitely been a big problem for the Patriots playing down there. I think they're going to lose a real close one, a real heartbreaker in week 1, but I'll give them 0-1 to start the season. Okay, so week 2 is the Patriots traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think you're getting a win here. I really don't trust either of these quarterbacks, Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett out of Pitt. Mitch Trubisky, always been a crappy quarterback in my eyes. I don't know why anybody would really like him. I have one friend in particular who just loves the guy. Never really seen it. Really bad accuracy problems. Really big problems in terms of winning and leading teams. He doesn't get it done. He's a very, very sub-average quarterback. I think he's in a perfect situation right now. He's a bridge quarterback for a team that obviously has a quarterback for the future. He's not a guy you can lean on or count to win games, and I don't think he's going to get it done for the Steelers here against the Patriots. Second reason, Steelers secondary is really, really bad. It's one of the few games this season where the Patriots should have a clear advantage. The receivers for the Patriots, that being the wide receivers and tight ends, they should have a field day, and Mac Jones, if he's able to get them the ball and have enough protection from that offensive line, should have a good day throwing the football. And the Patriots haven't gone 0-2 since 2011. They've had some shaky starts. They've had some 2-2 starts. There's the famous one where they got blown out by the Chiefs early on, like game 2 or something of the season, and it was really bad. Things were coming down New England. It's all over. Been there. But they haven't started 0-2 since 2001. Oddly enough, they won the Super Bowl that year, but haven't started 0-2. So I don't think that's going to change here. I think they have the way of righting the ship, regardless of if they win or lose in Miami. I think they're securing a win here, week 2 against the Steelers. So moving on to week 3, Patriots have the Ravens at home at Gillette, the season home opener for the Patriots. I think they're losing this one. I think they're falling to 1-2 in this game. Main reasons being Lamar and his whole team is hungry. It's a contract year for him, and this team just went through so many injuries last year in the preseason. Their top 2 running backs both got injured. They lost their best corner in Marcus Peters. Just a lot of problems for this team last year. They're going to be hungry. It's going to be early on in this year. They're looking to establish that tempo and that consistency they had a couple years ago. So I'm looking, they're going to be firing on all cylinders, and I don't think the Patriots will be ready for it. I think they'll already be 2-0 already, that being the Ravens. They're playing the Jets in Miami. I think they're quite a bit better than both of those teams, especially the Jets. So they're going to really want to keep the foot on the pedal here, start 3-0 on a road game in New England. So I think they're going to be coming ready to play. You have to manage the clock really well to beat the Ravens. They're a team that just controls the tempo of the game, and that's how they're going to beat you, with running the ball and controlling the clock, getting the ball back to start the second half, things like that. That's what they do so well. And I don't think you're going to have the running game to do it efficiently enough in this game. That's why teams like the Ravens are so effective at doing it. They have such a strong running game that they can rely on. I don't think you have the ability to do that. So I think they're really going to control the pace of this one and kind of have their way with you. So 1-2 start for the Patriots in my eyes. Week 4 is at Lambeau Field against the Packers. I think it's a loss here too. I think this is a close game. I really do. Mainly because Aaron Rodgers has absolutely not a soul to throw the football to. Absolutely no receiving threats there in Green Bay. But it doesn't really matter considering the Patriots secondary is pretty weak. So I think Aaron Rodgers will be able to elevate. He's the main reason, that being Aaron Rodgers. He's the guy who's going to step up and make big plays. You could both be 1-2 coming into this. I have the Patriots at 1-2. But the Packers, have Minnesota, Chicago, and Tampa Bay. That Minnesota and Tampa Bay game, those are both on the road. So those are really tough games. I think they could maybe lose both of those. I think they should obviously beat Chicago at home. But if they come into this one 1-2, there's going to be a lot of pressure from around the league and from within, just from Aaron Rodgers himself, in terms of getting a win, getting back on track, and I think they're going to do it at home against the Patriots. Lambeau's just a tough place to play. That was the third reason. So, yeah. So, week 5, I'm probably going to start messing up these weeks, so I might not say it after that. It's going to be the Lions. I think this is a win. I think you're going to move to 2-3 here. It's basically a must-win for the Patriots. You can't start 1-4. It's just, you can't move on from that. The Lions are a bottom 10 team in the league. You got to step up and make plays against them. And Goff is 0-2 against Bill Belichick. And that's with the Rams roster and the Rams coaching. So I really don't see Jared Goff finding some sort of solution here with a severely worse team around him in the Detroit Lions and being able to somehow beat this Bill Belichick coach team. So I think you get a win there against the Lions. Next game is going to be in Cleveland against the Cleveland Browns. I think you get a win here too. I think you improve to 3-3, get to 500. Big reason here is it's Jacoby Brissett, not Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson hasn't looked great since returning. Really hasn't shown too much, but what do you expect? He's been out for quite a while, over a calendar year now. But even with that being said, Jacoby Brissett is a guy you totally understand. He was your backup quarterback for so long here in New England. I don't think Bill Belichick lets people like that beat him. And then we've always just had the Browns number in these past few years. I'm not really sure. Obviously, since their big turnaround, everybody had their number. From about 5 years ago back to 2000, everybody owned the Browns. But even since they've kind of become a good team now and they have a bunch of fans and stuff, Patriots have played them really well. There was that game, I believe, in New England where Nick Chubb put the ball on the ground a couple times. Something always seems to happen. When the Browns play the Patriots, that the Browns end up turtling and the Patriots start making some plays. They've also got a pretty bad receiving core, and if you can get a good lead and force them to really throw the ball a lot with Jacoby Brissett, I think you maybe force them into a turnover. And I just don't see a situation where you're up a couple touchdowns or you're up 2 possessions and Jacoby Brissett's going to light it up with that receiving core in Cleveland and come back and beat you. So I think you get a win there against the Browns. Now, moving on to the Bears, I think you get a win here. The Browns, one of the worst teams in the league, clearly in rebuild mode. They got some talent on offense, players like Darnell Mooney, obviously the young quarterback Justin Fields, but I don't think it's going to be enough here. Bill Belichick feasts off of young quarterbacks. He also feasts off of first-year head coaches, which is something that the Bears have this year as well after letting go of Matt Nagy. They brought in Matt Eberflus, probably said that wrong, Eberflus. Something. But first-year head coach, don't think he's going to do too well against Bill Belichick. Their secondary is atrocious. We just talked about the Steelers' secondary where the Patriots receivers could potentially have a bit of an advantage. This secondary is even worse. It's bottom 3 in the league. It's really, really bad. Patriots and Mac Jones should have the ability to have a field day here passing the football. Fields, I think, is going to make 2 or 3 big mistakes in this one that are just going to be the difference. Maybe turnovers, maybe big sacks, anything like that I think is just going to be enough for the Patriots to pull this one out against the Bears. Jets, I think they get a win here as well. That's going to be at the Jets. That would improve them to 5-3 on the year. Zach Wilson's awful. I hate this guy. If you want to see the season or the episodes from last year, I don't hate the guy. Fine dude. Really bad quarterback. I think it's one of the worst quarterback picks in recent memory. Taking that guy at second when you had Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Mac Jones still on the board. They go with Zach Wilson, and this kid's just been hot trash, quite honestly. He's been bad at basically every turn. He had this game against the Patriots last year where he threw 4 interceptions in like 3 quarters. So, really not great football from Zach Wilson. I don't trust this guy at all. He's a fraud. So I think he's going to throw the game again, give you a nice, easy win. The Jets roster, it isn't the worst. They have some good receivers. Elijah Moore. They just brought in a receiver who I'm blanking on, the receiver from USC. I just don't think it's going to be enough. I really don't. The Patriots should be rolling off of the last few weeks as well, especially the week right before with Chicago. I think they'll definitely get a win there. So if that is the case, I think they'll roll into this Jets game with some momentum and really take care of the Jets, as they should. Colts, this is the last game before the bye for the Patriots, and unfortunately I think they're taking an L. This is a team that gave you the absolute business last year. They were up 20-0 going into the fourth. Finished 27-17, but that just was not how the game went. It was very clear to anybody who saw that Jonathan Taylor and the Colts offensive line just dominated you that entire football game. So that's definitely going to be in a lot of these returning players' minds. Not sure that'll play into the Patriots' favor. Improved roster for the Colts as well, especially their receivers, defensive line, and wrapping in this third thing, Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan certainly still has nightmares of what you did to him back in 2016. So he's going to be trying to exercise some demons out there against this Patriots team and Bill Belichick. So look for him to really be dishing the rock. And I don't think it's going to be a good one for the Patriots. They have the Colts have the ability to run the ball. Matt Ryan's going to be firing, as I expect. So I think they take a loss here going into their bye, putting them at 5-4. So now, coming out of the bye week, Patriots again get the Jets. Going to give it a win here. basically my first and second points from the last, and they're coming off a bye. They have some extra time now. If they've sustained any lingering small injuries, those things can hopefully get cleaned up in this week off, get them ready for the Jets. They have 2 weeks to prepare. I think they'll take care of business. It's a home game for them as well, so I think they get the job done there against the Jets. Go to 6-4. Now we move into a very interesting stretch. It gets really tough here at the end for the Patriots, and it starts in Minneapolis. You have to go and play the Vikings. I think you lose here. There's a big mismatch in terms of the receivers for the Vikings and your ability in the secondary. They're pretty top-heavy in terms. It's really just Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. There's not too much beyond that. But those two guys enough are just people I think they're going to take you apart. If you have your best corner on the Patriots, which right now is Jalen Mills on Justin Jefferson, first off, he's going to get absolutely destroyed in that matchup. But now, who do you have on Adam Thielen, your second best corner, whoever that mate ends up being by this point in the year? They can't cover Adam Thielen, so you can't cover either one of these guys. You're going to need to probably provide help over the top for both of them. I think it's just going to leave the field wide open for Dalvin Cook or the tight ends for the Vikings, whoever they may be. Like I said, pretty top heavy, but I think they're going to open up this field for the Vikings, and they're going to have a good day on offense. Them being at home, I think they can get up early too, and then you're just really not built to play catch up. And it's not a crazy secondary that they have, but they do have Pat Pete and Harrison Smith, and I think those two guys, I think you could man up Pat Pete on Devontae Parker and Harrison Smith, have him worry about Hunter Henry, and then just let the other Patriot receivers try to beat you. And I think that'll work out pretty well for the Vikings. So I have them losing that one. 6-5 would be their record after that. Going to the Bills, this one will be pretty quick. Trying to not allow recency bias of this Thursday season opener. Get into this, but it's hard to not. I took these notes before, so you'll have to just take my word for it. But I think they're just going to crush you, quite honestly. Josh Allen can beat you in any number of ways. He's the most well-rounded quarterback in the league right now, and I don't know if it's particularly close. I love Patrick Mahomes as well as a quarterback. I think he might still be the best just in terms of his arm talent and his brain and the ability to do things, but in terms of all around, if you're building a team from scratch and you don't know what direction your team's going in yet, Allen's that guy. He can do anything for you. He can do a power run thing like Cam Newton. He can run option plays and quick read things like they do with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. He can do it anyway. He's got one of the strongest, if not the strongest arm in the NFL. He can really do it all. I think he's a freak of nature, and I think he's going to be a big problem, not only for the Patriots, but for the rest of the league for next 10 or so years, 10, 15 years here. I think they're just substantially better than you, basically every area of the football field. And I didn't even really have a great third reason. I just think you're going to get really embarrassed. That was my third reason in a bad fashion. I think you embarrassed the shit out of them last year with the 3-pass game and that crazy weather game that I just watched the highlights of today. By the way, what a crazy game. But yeah, they're not going to be happy about that. They're still going to be salty. I think they're going to give you everything they got and really give you the business, quite honestly, in that game in Gillette. So then we move on to the Cardinals. I think they're winning this game. I've never been, that might be a controversial take, I've never had too much faith in the Cardinals. I think they're a regular season front-running team, and a lot of stuff has been going on this offseason in terms of Kyler Murray getting that big contract, and then there was obviously the statutes in the contract that told him he has to watch or do an hour of film study a day, or 4 a week, which is nothing. That's probably, I probably did something like that in high school football. So to have that in your contract, obviously very embarrassing for somebody like Kyler Murray, who's supposed to be the face of your team. So I think if they're at a shaky point in their season, there's going to be a lot of infighting and a lot of bad things going on between him and head coach Cliff Kingsbury. So I think those are the exact kind of situations that the Patriots and Bill Belichick take advantage of. So I think they could roll into Arizona here maybe have a good day, surpass some expectations, and get a much-needed win. I think the Patriots will be coming off of 2 tough losses here, too, with the Vikings and the Bills. I think they're going to respond, and I think they're going to step up here and avoid going below 500. So that would move them to 7-6. Now, they would have to travel to Las Vegas, just a couple states away, or just one state away? I don't know, very, very close, to play the Raiders. I think they're going to lose this one, 7-7. It was very easy coming up with reasons why I think the Patriots are going to lose this game. The Raiders just have way more talent than you on both sides of the ball. They have a way more talented roster. And then the biggest reason, they're going to be very deep into a season where they're playing in the best division in football by far. So they're going to be very used to playing way more higher-end talent than what you're going to be giving them that Sunday. And I think they're going to be in the middle of very tough playoff seeding play. They're going to need this game. I think they're just going to take care of you here at home, or home for them, home in Las Vegas. And the Patriots really, I don't think, have a single answer for Davante Adams, especially downfield, and Josh knows how to attack our defense, Josh McDaniels. So I think it's going to be a tough one for the Patriots. It's not a good matchup. I think they're going to take the L there and fall to 7-7, 500. Bengals, I think they're losing. Bengals obviously went to the Super Bowl last year. I don't know why I had trouble thinking of the Super Bowl. But went all the way to the Super Bowl last year with an incredible run. Joe Burrow, absolute slinger in the pocket, just makes plays. The Bengals receiving core is one of the best in the league. I think it matches up perfectly for them with your deficient defensive backfield. I think they're going to pick you apart all day. They have the potential to control the whole pace of the game, too. They have a great running back in Joe Mixon. And they don't have a great offensive line, but they have the ability to lean on their running game and things like that. I think they're just going to control the pace of play, similar to the Vikings, and kind of really control you in this game. And I think it's going to be a tough one for New England. The last 4 games that the Bengals have to play are also the Bucs, us, the Bills, and the Ravens. They can't afford to lose that game against us. Those other 3 teams are going to be really tough games for them. They can't avoid to just blow it against what I think will be a pretty middling Patriot team. I think they're going to have to take care of business, and I think they will, and push the Patriots to below 500 to 7-8. Then, second to last game of the season, we got the Dolphins in Gillette this time. I think you're winning this one. If the Dolphins win in week 1, that'll be 5 straight. I don't think they're so much better than you that they're going to beat you 6 times in a row or twice this season. Tua, still pretty trash, and this is late in the season. Again, I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever. Don't think anybody would be if Tua was injured or had at least lingering injuries going on by this point. I think he'll make a couple mistakes in this game, and I do think it'll be very close, but I think the Patriots can get this one done. It's also a first-year head coach. Now, I didn't bring that up in week 1 when I think the Patriots would lose, but I think when you're a first-year head coach and you have so much talent on offense, especially, that it's easier to kind of just disguise it for a little while. When you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Tua, who, for as bad as I think he is, can extend plays with his feet and make plays, I think it's going to be pretty effective early on in the season. But once teams get tape on these guys and they figure out their money plays and the things they like to do, they're going to realize this guy's just a first-year head coach, and they're going to find some holes in that system and ways to take it down. So that's why I got the Patriots winning that game, moving to 8-8, 500 going into the last season against the Bills, and I think you lose. Basically all the same reasons that I gave. These games are only separated by, 4 weeks? Yeah, about 4 or 5 weeks. Don't think enough changes. I think your only shot, quite honestly, is that the Bills have secured the number 1 seed by this point and they rest all their starters. But even then, even if they're second or they're like locked into a certain spot, I think they're still playing their starters just to beat the shit out of you. I don't think they like you. The hatred, I know they don't like you. The hatred for the Patriots with every other team in the AFC East runs incredibly deep. It's been a dominating run for 22, 23 years here. And the time has come. It is the Bills' division. I think they're going to sweep you this year, and I think they're going to beat you in that last game. of the season, putting the Patriots at a very disappointing 8-9, below 500. So yeah, that basically wraps it up. This has gone on way longer than I expected it would, so I'll try to wrap it up quick for you guys. Thank you so very much for listening. I had so much fun doing this last year, and just hearing from you guys, hearing all the great feedback, things to improve, things to get better on. Going to try to take all that to heart. Don't love the production value where we're at right now. I'm literally just screen recording this and uploading it to YouTube and doing some trimming and stuff in there. But it's tough. I only have a Chromebook at the moment. Did get a great mic here from a friend. He let me borrow it. But we're going to try to up that production value as we go. The plan should be to upload, I want to try to upload 2 videos a week this season. Ideally 1 on Monday following the game, and then 1 on either like Friday or Saturday. And that'll just make it a lot easier. And I hated having it in the middle of the week last year because I felt we were covering stuff that was maybe like long gone for people if it was a game that happened Sunday and now the video comes out Thursday and you're already looking forward to. A lot of the times I like to watch pregame stuff that's pretty up to date, and people know I'm not just talking about something that's coming up in 4 or 5 days. I like to do that maybe the Saturday, day before, get some more recent valid information out to you guys. So that's the plan. Quick Monday post game wrap up and a Saturday. Try to keep those things around 20 minutes a piece. This is obviously a big one, getting back into the swing of things. So thanks so much, guys, again for watching. Going to get this thing rolling. Please, please, please share this with everybody you can. Put it up on all your social media. It takes 2 seconds for you guys, and it would mean the world to me. So thanks so much again. Looking forward to a great Patriots season. Like I said, I got them going right under 500, but who knows? We've got the best coach in the history of the game. Quarterback going into his second year, who had a great rookie season looking to build. Got some new weapons around him, some new toys. Let the chips fall where they may. So thanks so much again, guys. We will see you next week on the PrimeTime Patriots Podcast. Have a good one. Go Pats.